Now, Leonard, over the last 12 weeks of this very, very nice program we put together, we've had the privilege to speak to some of the absolute superstars, and particularly when it comes to the comedic world. Nazim Hussain, now he just got us chuckling along, very, very funny man. Pete Hillier, and then we thought, oh, hello, have we gone up the ranks? Well, I think we might have jumped a couple of ranks right now, my friend, because the great man, the superstar, not just of the comedic world, he's on television, he's hosting shows, he's been all over the place. I can't go 10 minutes without turning on some sort of media platform and hearing from this man, and he's somehow agreed to spend a few minutes with us, and I speak of the great Dave Hughes. Get around him.
Well,
hey, what's up, brother?
Mate, it's an honour to be here, and I, I've always loved you too. I've been a big basketball fan, but my son, my 11-year-old son, is mad. Yes. He's all in on basketball. If you can, he's right now doing an online sort of camp with some McKinnon mob, and he's bouncing the ball on our concrete floor in the lounge room right now. Doing some sort of course. Absolutely.
That is fantastic. Well, we see you a lot. I do the commentary at the NBL, and whenever you seem to be at a Melbourne United game, is that your team?
Melbourne United, they're definitely my team. We love Melbourne United, and to get on the floor though, when I get to go to the games, we're on the floor, hanging out with the players.
They put the big superstars on the floor. You notice that, right? You got front row seats. We noticed.
I know you can't miss
it. I love it. I absolutely love it, and we're so stoked and. Can't wait. They're coming back January, is that right? Where they've said there's going to start again in January, is that right?
Well, they've actually, last week they announced they've pushed it back to the start of February because they want to make sure they get a bit of, they get the opportunity to have fans like yourself coming to the game. So hopefully by then we're back into it. But Coach, my understanding in the research that I was doing, you were originally a Perth boy. Is that correct?
Oh, George, Dave, did you get a chance to taste that defeat in the early 90s when the Melbourne Tigers came over and spanked the Perth Wildcats? I think you're around 22, 23 years old then. So you would have been a great fan of the Perth Wildcats.
Hey, I am a big fan of, my stand-up comedy career started in Perth. So my comedy career started in Perth in 1993. So I'm a Victorian, but I lived over there at the age of 21, 22, 23 and, started comedy over there. We know the Perth Wildcats have always been massive in Perth. Here's the connection, though, I've got to the Perth Wildcats.
Yes.
The coach of the Perth Wildcats, Trevor Gleeson.
Yes.
I know him as Budzer Gleeson because we used to play footy together back in Warrnambool, country Victoria. He's 2 years older than me, and, we were mates back as we were growing up. So Budzer Gleeson, Trevor Gleeson, superstar coach, is personal friend from my childhood. So there you go.
Well, you're a big time Carlton fan. We see that, and you're very passionate and somewhat emotive in some of your ramblings that we've seen in regards to the Carlton footy team. Were you any good yourself? Were you a chance that maybe this could be your calling?
Look, the AFL was, my desire growing up was to be an AFL player, and I never quite got there. I was a pretty good country league player, and one coach who was a former AFL player told me I could have made the big leagues, but I never did. I was on one point, I was on $100 a game to play Aussie rules back in the country.
That's big money, man. That's big money back then.
It was big money. It was in 1992. It was big money. It was huge money. But they dropped me to the reserves, and I think they didn't want to pay the money. So they didn't want to pay me $100.
So how do you go from football to being a comedian then? Where was the switch there?
The switch happened, I had a desire to be a comedian probably from the age of 14 or 15. It was very much a dream on the back burner, though, because I was too embarrassed to tell anyone, and because I thought they would laugh at me, ironically. But I dropped out of university. Kids don't smoke bongs because they were. No, it was bad, and I was not motivated. But you know what? I gave the bongs up, and I thought I'm going to get even crazier and follow my dream. And that's why I went to Perth. I moved to Perth basically to start stand-up comedy so far away from anyone I knew that, you know, it would take a long time for the embarrassment to get back to my hometown. So, yeah, I had a dream to be a comedian. At the age of 22, I got on stage in Perth and went from there. So first night, though, not one laugh. I did stand-up comedy. Zero laughs. My first routine was about being mocked at school, about being teased at school.
Yes.
No one laughed at this little nightclub in Perth when I did it. And as I'm walking off stage to complete silence, all I heard was some bloke go, "They were right to tease you at school."
Where does your confidence go from there, though? Do you go home and say, I'm no good, or how do you keep going? What happened?
I was living with a mate who I'd driven over to Perth with from Warrnambool, which is country Victoria. We'd driven over in his panel van. His name was Rat. And so I was living with Rat, who was a bricklayer in a suburb called Scarborough, in a little two-bedroom
Beautiful
flat.
place.
I went back, it's his beachside suburb. It's magnificent. I went back to my little flat with Rat, and he goes, "How did you go?" And I said, "Not very well." And he said, "Do you know why?" I said, "Not really." And then Rat looked at me, my only confidant in the whole state, looked at me and said, "This is why you are not funny."
That's a
so
setback.
from there, I
That
still
is
was
a
able
setback.
to bounce back. And
Yes.
I went back to the same club the next week. I thought, if I don't do this again straight away, I'll never do it again in my life. So I went back and I kept my dignity the second time I got on stage. So, and here we are, talking to you, legend.
That's not necessarily a good indication.
Mate, it's an absolute trajectory. It's a trajectory of up.
Speaking of Warrnambool, Warrnambool was just every Australia Day weekend. Warrnambool had the biggest basketball tournament from the time I was about 5 until I was about 21, and a lot of my maturing and education about basketball and the sort of the social issues that you go through was done there at the, and I would think of it, I don't know if it's still there, there was Seaside 1, Seaside 2 Caravan Park, and then there was the Lady Bay?
Lady Bay Hotel.
Now the Lady Bay Hotel, my glory-filled days, that was some education going on there. Did you ever get the chance to do some of your sharpest work at the Lady Bay, and how would they have treated the great Dave Hughes?
You know what? I wasn't the Lady Bay Hotel when I was growing up. It was the Mecca in Warrnambool, and a lot of people from Melbourne came down and would hang out at the Lady Bay Hotel. I never got to do comedy there myself. I did get to socialise. I once saw Rodney Rood actually perform at the Lady Bay Hotel. And I was busting to go to the toilet, but I was too scared to go to the toilet in case Rodney would pick on me. So I've gone a long way in being able to be confident. But yeah, the Lady Bay Hotel was an incredible place for people basically to drink and get beaten up. So
it was.
That happened to me a number of times. One experience from the Lady Bay Hotel, me and my mates were down there, Hunters and Collectors, the great band.
Nice, yes.
And Mark Seymour, the lead singer, was on stage, and we're in the front row basically. One of my mates grabbed Mark Seymour by the collar from the stage and said, "Play your old shit." And I'll never forget, Mark Seymour punched my mate in the face. And it was just perfect. And my mate took it as a badge of honour that he got punched in the face by Mark Seymour.
Hey, you mentioned that we're talking about being at pubs. So I was a little surprised because you're talking about your youth and maybe getting stuck into the Hong Kongs and that sort of thing. You've gone into a situation now where you're a non-drinker and you don't dabble. Was it a harsh lesson somewhere along the line that got you to this point?
Yeah, it was a lot of lessons back in those Lady Bay Hotel days. Basically, I would always drink too much. I would get beaten up. I was a lover. I was a smart ass who would just think that I was being funny, and other people wouldn't agree, and they wouldn't agree with their fists. So I used to get beaten up a lot. I'd end up in the police cells for my own protection, basically. Yeah. And you know what? I at the age of I just turned 22, and I hadn't even turned 22. I was still 21. I thought, nah, I'm not drinking anymore. And here I am at the age of 49 and haven't touched a drop since those days. And,
Wait, now I got a question for you, because we had Nazim on a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
He spoke about you guys and a story about you and him and Lindsay Lohan and buying a bottle of wine. negotiating on who was going to have the drink.
Two non-drinkers going up the party with Lindsay Lohan.
Tell the truth. Who had the drink?
It was a stressful decision that one of us had to have a drink. And I don't know, did he tell you about the fact that he sent her a text message saying, should we bring a plate? Like did he tell you about that?
No, we want you to tell the story, please.
So with The Masked Singer last year, the TV show on Channel 10, Lindsay Lohan was on it last year. I'm part of that show, so I used to sit next to Lindsay trying to explain to Lindsay who the Australian celebrities were once they took their masks off because she had no idea. She always thought it was going to be Bruno Mars, and I'm like, no, it's not Bruno Mars. It's it's Millsy from Australian Idol. But anyway, so Nazim came as a guest on the show one night, and I think Lindsay liked Nazim.
Right.
Lindsay, I think she did, seriously. It was a bit of a on Nazim. And so it was filmed in Sydney. We're staying at the Hilton in Sydney. Me and Nazim's staying there. He said we should hang out with Lindsay. And I'm like, well, send her a text. He said, I will. I've got a number. He sent her a text. She said, yep, come to my hotel room. It was me. He said that he was with me. So and then he said, she hasn't replied to my next message. I said, what was your message? And it was bring a plate. Should we bring a plate? And I'm like, Lindsay doesn't know what that means. No. So she probably think that's code for should we bring 10 kilos of...
Correct.
So eventually Lindsay said, bring a bottle of wine if you want to. And then he's a Muslim, doesn't drink. I'm a non-drinker. And we had that big debate as to who's going to be drinking. So we get to hang out with Lindsay Lohan. Neither of us had a drink. We both brought the bottle of wine. She didn't even notice, to be honest. She was telling us stories. One thing about that trip, staying in her hotel room, though, I was so nervous. I went to the toilet in Lindsay's hotel room, and it was like I was so stressed out from being in a Hollywood celebrity's hotel room. I just wanted to do a wee, but I got stage fright on my own. I'm in the toilet, I got stage fright, and I thought she's going to, as the second started ticking away, I thought she's going to think I'm doing a poo. So, and
there's anything wrong with that.
No, well, I didn't want to do a poo in Lindsay. I didn't want her to think I'm doing a poo in it.
Mate, if you can't do a poo in someone in a toilet, where can you do a poo?
You can't do a poo in a celebrity's bathroom.
I can't do a poo in Lindsay Lohan's hotel room.
You leave streaks and you got a smell.
Exactly. Well, I knows modern baby. So,
I was not aware.
I'm holding mine all the way. I'm squeezing them butt cheeks until I get out of that room.
I'm learning something new every day. I was aware that it was etiquette to not poo in someone else's toilet. What's a toilet? It's not an ornament. It's not an ornament there that's just for decoration.
But it's a large hotel room. I'm not going to say that she didn't have a couple of sweets, but, still. The only way I would poo at Lindsay Lohan's property is if she had an outside toilet. If she's got an outside dunny down by the back fence, about 1 kilometre away from the main house, I'll poo down there.
Dear.
Nothing closer than that.
Dear. Well, speaking of The Masked Singer, and this show is a sensation. When it first came on, I thought, turn it up. What's all this about?
Yeah,
exactly. But the more you get into it, it takes you in, and you guys are the judges, do a fantastic job of it. But we always like to, and I don't know whether you'd be truthful here anyway, but we like to get an understanding because you see people in these reality shows, they come out and said, the producers here, they absolutely cooked me. They cooked me. This is not really what goes on. Is this a legitimate competition, or is there? Is there something?
Do we know? Do we already know who's behind the mask?
Correct.
What the question.
Correct.
Look, initially got no idea who's behind the mask. First few episodes, no idea. But this time, because of the COVID, it was filmed as it went to air. So if you got on the internet by about halfway through the series, all the names were there on the internet. So it was a tricky one. I remember in the last episode, I'm like, I reckon that's Kate Miller-Heidke. And they said, you're not allowed to say it. I said, but I want to say it. And I said, no, you're not saying it. I was for God's sake. All right, Tina Arena, guys. But generally, though, early on. But we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But the internet's very smart. The internet is smart. One thing I did do between the series 1 and series 2, I said, for the clues, you've got to take the centimetre height off the clues.
Right.
Because if it says they're 186 centimetres tall, all I have to do is put in 186 centimetre celebrity, and I'm going to get names there. You know, if it says 186 centimetres, I can't guess that it's Grant Denyer. I can't. He's 3 foot tall, and I want to be able to guess it's Grant Denyer. So.
And what's changed for you with COVID though? I mean, in the show, is there anything different?
Mate, we tried really hard on that TV show to keep it COVID safe. There were screens between the panelists, and we still bloody had an outbreak at the studio. So we got to the last day of filming. True story. I'm in the makeup room. This is exactly what happened. We filmed in Melbourne during a stage 4 pandemic, and we're like, we've got, you know, there's hundreds of people here. We've got to the end of this, COVID safe. I literally said, now, we're here now, lock the doors. They can't stop us.
Yes.
I kid you not, 5 minutes later, we got a phone call. Nah, we're stopping.
Shut it down.
We're stopping. We've had an outbreak on the last day. So we had to go into, everyone had to go in a hotel room for 2 weeks. I had to stay at home for 2 weeks, you know, in a room, basically where I am now, in fact. So we eventually got it done, but it was that last second, God, tricky. Wow. Anyway, what do you do?
You know when they're singing, because I'm hearing some of these voices and they actually sound pretty good.
I asked that question.
I'm thinking, nah, turn it up. This bloke can't sing that well. Is there a bit of computer? Because they all sound pretty good.
No, they are. Look, I agree. They are. They're just good singers, I believe. No,
right.
I reckon that absolutely. But I was when Mark Philippoussis,
the
stud was behind there. The bloody he was singing. He sung a George Michael song. You got to have faith.
Yes.
And I tell you what, the Scud was the first one to get kicked off the show this year, and he was so dark. He was like, I wanted to win it. The Scud wanted to win it. Disappointing is when he lost the US Open final against After.
No, well, at least you got there. Hey, the other program that I really have taken a liking to, I think you've done 3 or 4 seasons of it. Is Hughesy, we have a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Channel 10 show. It doesn't get a lot of credit, and I appreciate that, Gazy.
No, I actually quite enjoy it. You know, it depends on who's alongside you, to the level of excitement and the arousal levels.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate what you're saying. Yeah, so we've done 4 series of the Hughesy We Have a Problem. We're hoping to get another series in the can at the end of the year. It's pretty tricky at the moment with all the COVID palaver going on. But yeah, no, that's been a hell of a lot of fun. Where I'd love to see you two come on the show. Actually, I'm sure you'd have problems. We just want people to share. You know,
yes, but my recent problem, and I'm up and about, and it's great talking to you because it's lifted my spirits. Because my son is just turned 19. He's 19, and just said goodbye to him today, like literally half an hour ago. Gone to the States. He's gone and accepted a scholarship in the United States. So I'm happy for him. But he's going to an infested COVID situation, and of course, your little fella, my youngest, is. So that is my big problem now, is dealing with the emotions of that. Is there any suggestions?
That's big. I mean, my son's 11. I cannot imagine him, going to the next suburb on his own, let alone across the other side of the world. Yeah. But you know what? And on the COVID situation, well, I don't know if you know this, but they recently went back to college, and your son, Gaze, is obviously going there now. Yeah. There was a stat that 28,000 US college students got COVID. But, I mean, that's not good to hear, but not one of them was in hospital, mate. So, well,
that's a relief.
They've got it, but it's not affecting them. So he's going to be all right, but just, he can't come home to hang out with you, all right?
No.
He'll be right over there.
Well, if you're worried about COVID, Melbourne's just as bad as anywhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's true.
I agree.
I think we've got a few less cases than what the United States.
We do, but I mean, we have to open up at some point, don't we?
That's
We're
right.
talking about having the US Open. I mean, the Australian Open in January.
Yeah.
If you want to be COVID free, there's no Australian Open next year, I don't reckon. So at some point, we're going to have to deal with having some cases and just get on with it. That's my opinion. But anyway.
No, well, it's funny you mention that, because I jumped on the Twitter, and you've expressed your views on.
I have. Yes.
You have, and I don't know how much attention you'd pay to some of the responses, and you're very. The COVID is it's very polarizing.
It's divisive. It's absolutely divisive.
Like I try to stay off social media if I'm going to.
It's not healthy. It's not healthy, mate. It's not healthy.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is it a bit of a kick in the guts because you do get a lot of love, but there are some that are pretty aggressively disagreeing.
No, they're aggressive. But you know what? That's Twitter. Someone said to me, they wrote because I do have a crack on Twitter, and they said, you are such a different person on Twitter as opposed to radio or TV. Yeah. Why are you so angry on Twitter? Yeah. And I said, because that's what Twitter is. It's for angry people to yell at each other. I don't really see it being anything else. It's just all these sad people just going screaming at one another, and no one ever solves any arguments on Twitter, I tell you. So,
no, that's for sure.
Speaking of angry, Ellen DeGeneres, what do you think about her? What's going on with her?
Well, she came back today. Yeah,
came back today, yeah. But what do you think about her?
Today she said, I saw today where she said that she apologises for the toxic workplace that has been happening around her. Yeah. And basically saying none of it's her fault.
Correct.
But look, I'm on the fence with this as well because you know what, I know what it's like. Even like on a small scale with my TV show Hughesy, we have a problem. Yeah. It's easy for me to get stressed because my name is in the title of the show.
Yes.
You know, so if a producer's, I feel has been a bit slack, I mean, I don't really yell at them, but I feel like yelling at them because their name's not in the title of the show. So, like, in a way, Alan is like the coach, like the coach of a basketball team or a footy team, where she feels like everything comes back to her. So when someone isn't doing the right thing, she's the one who loses her mind because she's the one who's probably going to cop it in the end. So I'm slightly on Alan's side.
He's also the one that picks up that big check every month.
That is true, mate. Absolutely. Definitely first world problems. And spot on.
It is a sizable check that she's doing as well.
She probably doesn't have to work. So, she probably should be happy. Fair point. She should look at how grateful she is, and so should I.
Hey, Hughesy, we see these comedians, even the Australian comedians, that they have their roots in their stand-up, but then they, like you've gone into other forms of the media. But some of the real bigwigs have ventured into the movie world. Now, I might have missed something. I can't believe that a man of your talents and your skills and just your look. What's going on? Is your agent really pounding the pavement enough?
No, absolutely.
What is happening?
I don't know. Are they even ringing Hollywood and putting my name out there? Do you know what I mean? Why aren't I hanging out, with Kevin Hart or
correct.
Eddie Murphy or any of these other big stars, big comedians who became massive international superstars? I could do a movie with The Rock, honestly. And look at Rebel Wilson, an Aussie 100%. Girl who's bloody hilarious. We watched Pitch Perfect 1, 2, 3 on repeat in this house. So, and she's the one getting all the laughs with her Aussie all the way. No one more Aussie than me.
No, exactly. But why is that? Is it something you're not interested in? You haven't.
I am interested. Absolutely interested. I don't think it's too late. I think I can have a second half of my career renaissance, Jeffrey Rush style, where, I'll get nude and jump up. No, I mean, we'll talk about
Jeffrey's all right.
The movie Shine, where he was jumping up and down on the trampoline naked. So I can do that.
What do you prefer the most, though? Is it stand-up, television, radio? What's your preference?
Yeah. Stand-up comedy, 100% is the main game for me. So, and I haven't been able to do it since March, since the pandemic started. So, having a crowd in front of you directly right there, you look in their eyes and see whether they're either loving you or hating you. And, that's the thrill. It's like you guys, on court, bloody, it's go time. You don't think about anything else, You guys were never on court thinking about what you're going to have for dinner, were you? You were there in the moment, trying to do the right thing, living or dying by your next action. So that's what I love. Stand-up comedy, number one.
With the COVID though, right now we see a lot of stand-up comedians doing their act in front of screens. How does that ever going to work for you? Because you can't really get the feel of the human being in front of you and the laugh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not. It's not. We've got to get either we need a vaccine or we need to deal with the fact that some of us are going to get COVID. Because I just want to get on stage.
Yeah.
I just want to get on stage with an audience in front of me. So yeah, it's like watching the NBA, and you know, you see the audience on the screens. It's just not the same, is it? So,
not the same.
They have done. The NBA have done a terrific job of coming up with something that I didn't think was going to be anywhere near as good as what it currently is.
Absolutely, still worth watching. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of back to basketball with you two legends. I bloody absolutely love it, and our family are all in on the basketball now. So yeah, and I love watching the Aussies over in the NBA as well. Barracking for them. So, yeah,
and we've got some beauties over there. Joe Ingles, Paddy Mills, Aaron Baines. Unfortunately, we don't have any left in the playoffs. But Hughesy, when we are on the basketball court, we do a lot of video review. Like when we were playing, after every game, the cockroach is there, and we're going through it backwards and forwards. And we're in the VHS days, so it took forever. when Al Westo, our assistant coach, kept buggering it up, and limbs is going off at him because he can't get the right vision. But it's sometimes confronting when you see yourself on the court. You go, "Oh my Lord, that's just terrible." Yeah. Do you do a lot of reviews of your stand-ups and relive them?
Not enough, to be honest. So, but you know what? I always try to avoid myself. But you know what? When I do catch myself, I'm generally impressed. I'm generally go, yeah, you are pretty good. You're pretty good. You know. So I'm my own biggest cheer squad. I'm like, yeah.
Your kids, you ever do any acts in front of your try stuff in front of your kids?
My kids are my harshest critics. Honestly, they're just so mean. Like I'll do, like for the Masked Singer, which is obviously a kid's show. I've got a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, and 11-year-old. So you know, little kids, and that's a show that you get little kids to watch. But when I do a joke on that show, I swear to God, I get this sarcastic laughter from my lounge room. The kids will go, ha ha. That bloody mean kid on The Simpsons. You know, like don't give me the sarcastic laugh. That's a quality joke.
That's funny.
So mean.
Hughesy, one of the things about this show, we like to chat to people, learn a bit about them, have a bit of a laugh, obviously keep it lighthearted. But we also, for people that are listening, we try to provide them a little bit of inspiration about people's journeys, about what makes them tick, and give them a bit of advice along the way. And with you and coming from Warrnambool and to where you are right now, is there a message that sort of underlines all the things that you do and the success that you have that you like to share with people to just tell them about what was the key to your journey?
Well, look, I hate getting deep, but what I say to my kids and what I said to myself back in the day when I was like a 21-year-old, never had a girlfriend, drunk, failing university, basically getting kicked out of pubs and getting beaten up.
Smoking the bongs. I eventually said, I realised that you make your own reality and that no one else can. You make all the decisions, in your own brain, and no one can make them for you. So I'm not saying that, that means you're going to, play in the NBA or you're going to, win an Academy Award or you're going to whatever. It doesn't mean anything, but you make the decisions to make yourself happy or not and to create your own world. And that's really powerful to realize that no one else is creating your world. You are. So, and you have all the power to create the world you want, whether it's just internally or externally. If you create it properly internally, the externally will look after itself, but it doesn't even matter what the external is because you live your whole time inside your head. So take the power. What would an older Hughesy tell a younger Hughesy starting today, though? What is your advice to a younger Hughesy?
I would say stop stressing. I just remember lying in bed as a teenager just worrying just about bullshit. So constantly worrying. But I was a classic narcissist as a child as well. I still am, to be honest. So, but that whole, you're not good enough or everyone's better than you or why. Yeah, so just full of self-pity as a child. So.
That's beautiful, Hughesy. It's good advice. And when it comes to comedy and the way in which you deliver your messages, and they can be powerful messages that are surrounded by humour, is it harder these days because of the PC world we live in and the how careful and delicate you've got to be around certain issues? Is that like someone?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think can be, but I think I've always walked the line, and it's you've got to be. I think if you believe in yourself that you're not intentionally trying to hurt people for no reason, that it's fine. But also there's always going to be people saying that you shouldn't have said that or you shouldn't have done this, and just either log off the internet and just trust your own instincts, is what I'll say, as to what's the right way to go about things. And I think we can still have a laugh, and it's so important to laugh at life's problems. I honestly believe it is. But also, if you don't take yourself too seriously, for me, I've always set myself up before I've sent anyone else up. So,
of course.
Even though I've gone on done the opened the Logies a number of times, and I've
brilliantly.
But I've mocked other people, but I always mock myself as well. So they see that I'm not above, having the piss taken out of me. So as long as you start there, I think other people will go along with you.
Is there any celebrities you don't like? Give us the news.
Yeah, who gives you the shits?
You know what? I had a big beef with Kyle Sandilands for a number of years.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, so he wanted to punch me in the throat after I said he was a massive dickhead at the Logies many years ago. But you know what? Even me and Kyle now are pretty much friends. He came on my TV show. We had a laugh. One thing I am doing is no more grudges. No more grudges.
Good, man.
You know what? No matter what anyone has said about me in the past, I have just bloody given it up because it's not worth it. I used to have a catalogue of people I hated, mostly reviewers who didn't give me 5-star reviews, and I would just hate them.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, whatever, say what you like, it's fine. God almighty, let's live in the moment. Live in the moment.
Mate, that is so important. And I tell you what, it's been, we've taken up more time than we absolutely deserve here. You are a sensation, some great messages there. And we sincerely thank you for the time, and we appreciate how important people like you in these challenging times that we're going through, how important they are to the larger community. We have a laugh that you don't shy away from your opinion, and you seem to be able to have that balance between appreciating another side of an argument but knowing you're right. So it's a good way to be, and it's just fantastic that you've been able to share some time with us and our ever-growing audience.
I appreciate legends, and you know what? You're both pioneers for the great game of basketball in this country, and the next generation is basketball crazy in Australia. Yep. My son's primary school and my daughter's primary school, they just playing basketball the whole time, and and I'm happy about it. It's a bloody great game. I'm out in the backyard every day with my son.
I'm jealous because you've got the best looking hair I've ever seen in my damn life, bro.
I've got to wear a headband when I'm shooting 3-pointers, all right? So I don't want to get the hair in my eye. I want those 3-pointers to go swish. So it's all good.
Hey, it's a great look, and we're envious of. Look at us. He's got nothing, and mine dancing back like you wouldn't believe, and just the density's gone. But hey, you're a good man, Hughesy. Thanks very much for your time, and all the very best with the radio program, with the TV programs, and we are championing Hughesy. We need to see him in a movie. I want to see it. I want to buy the ticket. You'd be awesome in it.
Thanks, guys.
Good on you.
This has been a NOFilter Media production.
Say what you want.